They say beauty hides in the details, but what if the price of beauty is more than you can bear? This dress was made with pain, tears, and secrets sewn deep into its threads. They told me it was a masterpiece. But I soon learned, some masterpieces are cursed. I never believed in curses. I never believed in spirits. But when the man I love began to change, when the shadows whispered his name, I realized some truths refused to stay hidden. This is my story. The story of the woman's tailor who sewed shadows into a dress, and what it cost us all. When I wanted the perfect wedding dress, I ignored the whispers about the strange woman's tailor who walked only at midnight. I didn't care if she lived deep in the forest or that people said her dresses changed lives, literally. But when my groom disappeared on our wedding night and I began seeing shadows dance around my dress, I knew I had made a terrible mistake. I should have listened. I should have listened when Tochi Jimo warned me about the woman who sewed at midnight. But all I wanted was the perfect wedding dress. My name is Amara Jimo, and I live in a quiet town near the edge of the forest. For months, I dreamed of a gown that would make my heart skip. Lace that glowed. Beads that shimmered like morning dew. When Taiwo Ola proposed, I made it my mission to wear a dress so beautiful it would silence every gossip in our village. That's how I heard about Madame Caroline. She only sews at night, Tochi Jimo said with a shiver. They say her gowns are made from threads you can't see in the daytime. I laughed it off. Rumors, I thought. Superstitions. I don't care if she sews with moonlight or shadows. If her gowns are as beautiful as they say, I want one. So I messaged her. She replied instantly, come alone. Midnight. Bring a strand of your hair. I smiled. Strange, yes, but beauty always has a price. If only I had known what that price truly was. When beauty calls louder than wisdom, danger often follows. Have you ever ignored a warning just to chase something shiny? The forest road was darker than I imagined. Each step crunched against leaves, my lantern casting shadows that danced like spirits. I should have turned back, but my pride wouldn't let me. I needed that dress. At exactly midnight, I saw the hut, small, round, and covered in vines. A candle flickered inside. I hesitated at the door, holding the strand of hair she asked for. Madame Caroline opened before I could knock. She was tall, wrapped in a wrapper that shimmered like cobwebs. Her eyes were silver, her fingers long and pale. You came, she said, voice calm like wind. I handed her the hair. She didn't speak. Just took it, placed it in a bowl, and poured black powder over it. The hair sizzled, curled, and disappeared. Your dress will be ready in 7 days, she said. Once worn, it cannot be returned. Something in her words chilled me, but I nodded. I turned to go, but she added, wear it only once. Never twice. Never wash it. Never gift it. Why? I asked, heart thumping. She smiled for the first time. Because it will remember. Not all beauty is silent. Some remember. Some bite. Would you still wear it, knowing the price? On the 7th night, I returned. This time, Tochi Jimo followed me halfway through the forest, whispering prayers. I told her to wait while I went inside. Madame Caroline didn't speak. She simply unveiled the dress. It was breathtaking. White, but not pure white, like a sky before a storm. The lace shimmered, not with glitter, but with something deeper. Alive. The beads caught my reflection in strange angles. I touched it and felt warmth, like a heartbeat. I pulled back, startled. You asked for perfect, Madame Caroline said. Perfection remembers its maker. I paid her in silence and hurried back. I didn't look behind me. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I showed Tochi Jimo the dress. Her smile froze. It's beautiful, but it smells like rain on metal. Cold. Old. I ignored her. The dress was perfect. Taiwo Ola would cry when he saw me. What I didn't notice was that the dress didn't cast a shadow. I hung it in my closet, but it never asked Taiwo Ola still. Even with the windows closed, it swayed gently, like it was breathing. When something is too perfect, ask what was broken to make it. Have you ever owned something that felt too alive? That night, I couldn't sleep. The dress hung quietly in my closet, but it felt like it was watching me. Breathing. At 2 a.m., I heard it. A faint rustle. I turned on the light. Nothing. Just my dress, still swaying gently. Then, a whisper. Low. Almost like a hum. It was saying something I couldn't understand. I stepped closer. My skin tingled. Tochi Jimo, I whispered, knocking on her door. She grumbled but followed me to my room. You hear it too? I asked. She stood still, staring at the closet. It's singing, she said. In a language I don't know. We locked the closet. I slept in Tochi Jimo's room that night. In the morning, the closet was open. The dress was lying neatly on my bed. I blamed myself. Maybe I forgot. Maybe the lock didn't catch. But Tochi Jimo didn't believe that. She held my hand tightly and said, Amara Jimo, that thing isn't just a dress. I laughed to cover my fear. It's just nerves. Weddings bring stress. But inside, I knew she was right. Something about that dress was wrong. What we dismiss in fear often becomes the thing that consumes us. When was the last time your instincts tried to warn you? To prove the dress was just cloth, I tried something my grandmother once taught me. She used to say, if you want to know a thing's truth, show it to a mirror in silence. I waited until Tochi Jimo left for church. Then I closed all the windows, drew the curtains, and placed the dress in front of the mirror. I sat and stared. 10 minutes. Nothing. Then, the mirror flickered, like water rippling. My reflection faded. But the dress remained. And in the mirror, I saw hands. Pale, bony hands gently smoothing the dress. No body. Just the hands. They moved like they were sewing. I blinked. The vision vanished. My reflection returned. But I was no longer smiling. I packed the dress back into its box. My hands trembled. That night, I dreamt of a girl crying in a circle of needles. Her voice echoed, she took my skin, she made it pretty. I woke up in cold sweat. Tochi Jimo saw my face and didn't ask questions. She simply said, let's go to church. But I didn't need prayers. I needed answers. Some beauty hides a history you cannot bear. Would you still wear it if you saw what it was made of? I couldn't take it anymore. That night, I returned to Madam Caroline's place. I didn't tell Tochi Jimo. I just wore my scarf, took a flashlight, and walked into the forest. The trees were quieter this time. Almost like they were holding their breath. Her heart stood still, no smoke, no light. I knocked. No answer. I pushed the door open. It was empty. Dusty. Like no one had lived there in years. But, how? I was just here. The mirror she showed me the dress in was cracked. The sewing table, broken. Cobwebs stretched across the walls. I called out, Madam Caroline. Silence. Then a soft sound. Behind the curtain. Like thread pulling through cloth. I pulled it aside. A mirror. Not cracked. And in it, Madam Caroline. Smiling. Sewing. Only in the mirror. I dropped my flashlight. My scream caught in my throat. I ran. Tripped. Fell. Got up again and didn't stop until I saw the streetlights of my village. At home, Tochi Jimo sat by the door, eyes wide. "Where did you go?" I hugged her, whispering, "Something followed me." When you chase truth, be ready for what it shows you. What if the person helping you never existed at all? The next morning, I woke up with a burning itch on my shoulder. I lifted my nightdress and gasped. There were stitches. Tiny, neat black stitches, like someone had sewn something into me. "Tochi Jimo!" I screamed. She rushed in, took one look, and froze. "Did you do this to yourself?" "No," I cried. "It wasn't there last night." She sat me down and tried to undo one of the stitches, but the thread tightened on its own, like it was alive. "I think we're dealing with something older than we know," she whispered. We skipped work. Instead, we visited Charles Njoku, the oldest man in our village. People said he used to be a spiritual keeper. I showed him the stitches. He leaned in close, his hands trembling. "These aren't just stitches. They are bindings. Whoever made that dress, they've marked you." "Why?" I asked, tears forming. "Because you wore it. You accepted it. And now, you carry its sorrow." I wanted to scream, but I held it in. I asked, "Can I stop it?" He replied, "Only if you learn its story, before it finishes sewing itself into your soul. What you wear doesn't just touch your skin, it may shape your spirit. How much do you know about the things you let close to your body?" Charles Njoku gave me an old cowrie necklace and whispered a prayer over me. "Wear this. It will show you things not seen by ordinary eyes." That night, I placed the dress in the center of the room. I sat on the floor, the cowrie beads warm against my chest. The candle flickered, and suddenly, I wasn't alone. A girl stood behind the dress. Young. Thin. Hair tied in tiny puffs. Her eyes held storms. She pointed at the dress. Her voice was barely a whisper, it was mine. "Who are you?" I asked. She took a step forward. "I was her apprentice. I made this, with my own blood. Every time I cried, she used it to dye the cloth deeper. She said pain makes beauty stronger." My throat tightened. "Madam Caroline." She nodded. "She promised me a future. But she stitched me into the very thing I made." Tears fell from my eyes. "Why me?" She looked at me gently. "Because you listened. Because you felt it." Then she vanished. When I opened my eyes, the dress was damp, as if someone had just wept into it. Behind every masterpiece, there might be a hidden cry. Do you ever wonder whose pain made your pleasures possible? Days passed, but something changed in Taiwo Ola. He was quieter. Distant. He stopped laughing like before. At dinner, he barely touched his food. At night, he'd stare into darkness like he was chasing shadows only he could see. One evening, he disappeared. No note, no warning. Just gone. I searched everywhere, friends, family, even the forest edge. But no sign. Then, in the middle of the night, I heard barking. Strange howls outside the house. When I looked out, I saw him, well, something that looked like him, but his eyes were wild, almost animal. The next day, he returned, but something was wrong. His hands trembled. His voice was harsh. "I can't sleep," he said. "I hear whispers, calling me." I knew then that the dress wasn't just a curse on me, it was on him too. I clung to hope but feared the worst. Sometimes, what we wear or choose can affect not just us, but those we love. Have you ever felt a darkness creeping into someone you care for? Desperate, I turned to Tochi Jimo. She suggested we find Charles and Joko again. We walked miles to his hut, under a sky heavy with rain. When we arrived, he was waiting, as if he knew we'd come. "I can help," he said, eyes dark. "But you must be ready to face what you fear most." He gave us a small box carved with symbols. Inside, a needle and thread made of silver. "This is the thread of truth. Use it to stitch the lies from the curse. But be warned, it will pull from your own life force." I swallowed hard. Could I do it? Could I save Taiwo Ola and myself? That night, under the flicker of candlelight, I began stitching the cursed thread into the dress. As I worked, shadows lengthened, voices whispered, and the air grew heavy. But I didn't stop. Because some battles are worth the pain. Healing often demands courage to face darkness within and without. What risks would you take to save those you love? As I stitched, the dress began to tremble. The silver thread glowed faintly, pulling tight like a heartbeat. Suddenly, the room filled with voices, cries, laughter, whispers, all from the dress. I saw visions, Madame Caroline's twisted smile, the girl trapped in the threads, and shadowy figures dancing around the bakery. My hands shook, but I kept sewing. Each stitch pulled more than thread, it pulled my memories, my fears, my hopes. Then, a sharp pain hit my chest. I gasped, almost dropping the needle. Toy ran in, eyes wide. "Amora Jimo, you're hurting yourself." I nodded, tears streaming. "It's the price. But I have to finish." Hours later, I tied the last knot. The dress fell silent. The room was still. I looked in the mirror. For the first time, the dress cast a shadow. But the question remained, had I really broken the curse? True strength is found in holding on when everything tries to pull you apart. What pain have you endured to protect what you love? That night, I dreamed again. But this time, the dream was different. I stood in the bakery, surrounded by smoke and flickering lights. The mermaids were there, their eyes glowing, sewing invisible threads into the air. A voice whispered, "You stitched the lies away, but the truth still waits." Suddenly, I saw Taiwo Ola, trapped in a cage of threads made of darkness. He called for me. I reached for him, but the threads pulled me back. I woke up sweating, my heart pounding. Tochi Jimo said, "The curse is not just on the dress. It's in the souls." We knew we had to find a way to free Taiwo Ola completely. The next day, we searched the village for old stories, hidden clues about the bakery and Madame Caroline's past. The more we learned, the more we realized the curse was deeper than we ever imagined. Sometimes, the surface is just the beginning of the battle. How far would you go to save a loved one trapped in darkness? While searching the village archives, Tochi Jimo found a hidden diary in the old church. It belonged to Madame Caroline's apprentice, the same girl from my vision. The pages were yellowed, the ink faded but still readable. She wrote about her hope, pain, and the day Madame Caroline betrayed her. The apprentice was trapped inside the dress, her spirit sewn into every stitch. One line chilled me, "The curse feeds on fear, grows stronger with silence." The diary revealed a ritual to break the curse, one needing courage, forgiveness, and a pure heart. But it came with a warning, the one who breaks the curse must face the darkness alone. I looked at Tochi Jimo, fear and determination swelling inside me. "I have to do this," I said softly. She nodded, "We'll be with you in spirit." I felt the weight of the dress heavier than ever before. Breaking free often demands facing the darkest parts of ourselves. Are you brave enough to confront your own shadows for those you love? That night, I prepared the room. Candles flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The dress lay on the floor, silent but heavy with secrets. I closed my eyes, holding the cowrie necklace tight. I began to chant the words from the diary, my voice shaking but growing stronger. The air grew cold. The shadows lengthened, swirling around me like smoke. Suddenly, the dress lifted, floating midair. Threads unraveled, forming shapes, faces, hands, memories. The apprentice's spirit appeared, tears streaming down her translucent cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. But Madame Caroline's dark form loomed behind her, furious and desperate. "Stop!" I shouted, "This ends now." The battle of wills began, light against shadow, hope against despair. I poured every ounce of courage into the ritual, feeling the stitches in my skin tighten and then slowly loosen. Finally, with a blinding flash, the dress fell silent and lifeless. I collapsed, breathless but free. True freedom comes when we face darkness with courage and light. What shadows in your life need to be faced for you to be free? Morning light spilled into the room, soft and warm. The dress lay folded, ordinary at last. I felt different, lighter, yet deeply changed. The stitches on my skin had vanished. Taiwo Ola came to me, his eyes clear for the first time in weeks. He smiled weakly and said, "I feel like myself again." We embraced, both of us grateful and scared of what had been. But something lingered, a quiet whisper in the back of my mind, reminding me that the battle was won, but the war was not over. Tochi Jimo warned, "Curses like this leave marks on the soul." I nodded. "But we've started the healing." That day, I shared our story with the village, the danger, the darkness, and the power of hope and courage. They listened, eyes wide, some skeptical, others fearful. But one thing was clear: we had to watch carefully, protect our loved ones, and never ignore the shadows that lurk beneath beauty. Healing begins with sharing our truth and standing together. Who will you trust to walk with you through your darkest moments? Just as I thought the nightmare was over, strange things began again. Late at night, whispers floated through the village. Windows rattled. Shadows flickered where no light should be. One evening, Tochi Jimo called me, voice trembling. "Amora Jimo, the bakery is back. New owner, but the same dark energy." I felt my heart drop. How could this be? We went to the bakery, now closed but filled with a cold presence. The air felt heavy, like sorrow and anger mixed together. Suddenly, the cowrie necklace warmed against my skin. I realized the curse wasn't gone, it had only changed shape. We had to fight again, but this time, with all the knowledge and strength we'd gained. Because some shadows never fully disappear, they wait, ready to return. Some battles require constant vigilance and courage to keep darkness at bay. What will you do when the past you thought was gone comes back to haunt you? The village gathered at the old bakery one last time. With candles in hand and prayers on their lips, we stood united. Charles Njoku led the ceremony, calling on ancestors and light to banish the lingering curse forever. The night was long and heavy, but slowly, the coldness lifted. The air grew warm, filled with hope. Taiwo Ola and I held hands tightly, knowing this was the final battle. As dawn broke, the sun's golden rays touched every corner, burning away the last shadow. The bakery's walls crumbled, leaving only memories, and a lesson for all. We learned that beauty can hide darkness, but love, courage, and faith will always bring light. I looked at Taiwo Ola, grateful we survived the storm together. Our scars were reminders, not chains. Even the deepest darkness can be overcome with love and courage. What light will you hold on to when shadows try to consume you? The story teaches us that not everything beautiful is harmless. Sometimes, darkness hides beneath the most dazzling surface. It reminds us to listen to warnings and trust our instincts, even when others dismiss our fears. True strength lies in facing the unseen battles with courage and faith, not turning away from the truth. When shadows creep into our lives disguised as blessings, only awareness and action can break their hold. What signs in your life might you be ignoring, and how will you choose to confront the hidden darkness before it consumes you? The end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, Give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Hit the notification bell to stay updated. Your support means everything to us.